Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. I still vividly remember the moment she first brought it up. We were in the kitchen. Stella, my wife of 10 years, stood at the counter, meticulously chopping carrots for dinner as I lazily scrolled through my phone. "Kevin," she began, her tone adopting that measured gentleness she always used when trying to sway me. "The girls are talking about going on a cruise." I glanced up, startled. "A cruise? Really?" "Yes," she said with a nod. "Just a short one. A week in the Caribbean. Mandy, Liz, and a few others. It sounds like a great time. Sunny skies, sandy beaches, fruity cocktails, just a little getaway." I raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. "But you've always hated boats." She dismissed my objection with a casual wave of her knife. "That's only because I've never been on the right kind of boat. These cruise ships are like floating luxury resorts. Mandy showed me pictures, pools, spas, even casinos, nothing like the tiny boats I've been on before." I wasn't entirely convinced, but I also knew Stella had been under immense stress lately. Her marketing job had been demanding, and her once cheerful demeanor had grown sharper, our conversations shorter. Maybe this was exactly what she needed to unwind. "All right," I finally said, relenting. "If you think it'll help you relax, go for it." Her face lit up, her hazel eyes sparkling like fairy lights. "You're amazing," she said, leaning in to kiss me. The week she was away unfolded without much incident. I kept busy with work, stuck to my gym routine, and tried to ignore the fact that while she lounged on tropical beaches, I was stuck dealing with leaky faucets and a neighbor's unruly dog tearing up our lawn. She called a few times, but the conversations were brief. "How's the trip?" I asked during one of our chats. "Amazing. We just left St. Thomas. Kevin, the water here is the most vibrant blue I've ever seen. You'd love it." "Glad to hear you're enjoying it," I said. "I miss you." "Miss you too," she replied, though her voice carried an unfamiliar strain I couldn't quite place. Before I could ask about it, she added, "Anyway, I've got to run. The girls are waiting for me." "All right, have fun," I said, brushing off the unease. When she came back, something seemed off. "Hey," I greeted her as she stepped through the door. I pulled her into a hug, but she hesitated before leaning into it. Her suitcase was worn, and she carried the faint scent of sunscreen and the sea. "Hey," she said, her voice unusually subdued. "How was the trip?" I asked, stepping back to get a better look at her. "It was good. Very relaxing," she replied, but her eyes didn't meet mine. For the first time in years, I felt a faint ripple of suspicion creep over me. In the days that followed, Stella seemed distant. She didn't laugh at my jokes like she used to and spent an increasing amount of time glued to her phone, her face expressionless whenever I entered the room. At first, I chalked it up to post-vacation blues, but then her behavior shifted even more. Stella, who rarely went out more than once or twice a week, suddenly started going out almost every night. "Mandy and I are grabbing drinks," she'd say casually, or, "Liz had a tough day, so we're meeting up to talk." At first, I tried to be understanding, but after the fourth or fifth night in a row, I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in my gut. "Out again?" I asked one evening as she slipped on her heels. "You've been seeing a lot of the girls lately." She shrugged, her eyes avoiding mine. "It's nothing. We're just catching up." "Catching up?" I repeated, disbelief creeping into my voice. "You were with them for an entire week on the cruise." Her head shot up, and her expression hardened. "Why are you making such a big deal out of this? I'm just spending time with my friends. You can't control me." "I'm not trying to control you," I said evenly. "It just feels different." She didn't reply. Instead, she grabbed her purse, threw me a sharp look, and left without another word. Something about it didn't sit right, but I pushed the thought aside. Maybe I was just imagining things. Then one evening I saw the text. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs. I wasn't snooping, honestly I wasn't. But the screen lit up, and a name caught my eye. Andrew. The message read, "Thinking about you, wish I was there." A cold knot formed in my stomach. When Stella came downstairs, I was seated at the table, her phone in front of me. "Who's Andrew?" I asked, my voice steady but icy. Her eyes widened, her face instantly draining of color as though she'd been caught in the act. "What?" "Andrew," I repeated, holding up the phone. "He says he's thinking about you. Care to explain?" She swallowed, clearly flustered. "He's just someone I met on the cruise." "Just someone?" I stood, my frustration bubbling to the surface. "Stella, what's going on?" "It's not what you think!" she exclaimed, her words tumbling out in a rush. "He was one of the bartenders. We only talked a couple of times, that's it." My chest tightened as I stared at her. "And he's texting you this because—" "I don't know," she snapped, her voice defensive. "I didn't ask him to. I haven't even replied." "That's not the issue," I said, my voice rising. "You're hiding something, I can feel it." Her arms crossed, her jaw setting in defiance. "You're being ridiculous, Kevin." "Am I?" I shot back. "Because right now it feels like you're lying to me." Her lips pressed into a firm, resolute line as she turned away from me without a word. "I'm going to bed," she announced briskly, her tone sharp and final. Left alone in the oppressive quiet, I sat motionless, the weight of her words lingering in the air. "Thinking about you. Wish I was there." An unease settled in my chest, a heavy sensation that something indefinable had shifted between us. The sense that Stella was slowly drifting away from me was impossible to ignore. In the days that followed, I found myself watching her more closely, scrutinizing her every move. I noticed how her eyes stayed glued to her phone whenever she thought I wasn't paying attention, and how her responses to my attempts at conversation had grown increasingly terse. Each exchange seemed to carry an unspoken tension, pieces of a puzzle I was afraid to assemble. 2 days later, as I arrived home from work, I noticed our neighbor Nick standing in his yard, his gaze fixed on me with an expression that immediately set me on edge. "Hey, Kevin," he called out as I stepped out of the car. "Got a minute? I need to tell you something." I forced myself to keep my voice even. "What's up?" I asked, though my stomach was already twisting into knots. Nick hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. "There was a guy at your place today," he said, his tone uncertain yet deliberate. I froze mid-step, my breath catching. "A guy? What are you talking about?" "He showed up around noon," Nick continued, his voice steady but hesitant. "Stayed for a couple of hours. It didn't seem right, you know? You don't usually have visitors when you're not home." My pulse quickened. "What did he look like?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. Nick shrugged. "Tall, dark hair, about your height. I didn't get a good look, but I thought you should know." His words hit like a sledgehammer. Someone had been in my home, a stranger, during the hours I wasn't there. My mind raced to make sense of it, and a chilling suspicion began to take root. "Are you sure about the time?" I pressed. "Yeah," Nick replied firmly. "He was there for at least 2 hours." Each step toward the house felt heavier than the last, as though Nick's revelation had become a physical weight on my shoulders. My thoughts spiraled uncontrollably. Could Stella be seeing someone else? Was she bringing another man into our home while I was away? That night, the gnawing feeling wouldn't let go. I knew I couldn't sit idly by, waiting for answers to present themselves. If Stella was involved with someone else, I needed proof. I had to see it with my own eyes. The next day, Stella mentioned plans to meet her friends, and I saw my chance. While she was gone, I spent the afternoon meticulously setting up hidden cameras throughout the house. One went in the living room, another by the front door, and a few more were discreetly placed, including one in the bedroom. I ensured they were all well concealed, virtually impossible to detect. The following evening, I came home from work with a tight knot of anxiety in my stomach. Trying to appear normal, I went through the motions, but my nerves were frayed. I couldn't wait any longer. Grabbing my phone, I pulled up the footage from the cameras. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Hours of video showed a perfectly mundane house. But as I skipped ahead, my worst fears were confirmed. A man, tall, dark-haired, just as Nick had described, entered my home. My chest tightened as I watched him step inside. Stella greeted him warmly, her face lighting up in a way I hadn't seen in months. The embrace they shared quickly turned into a kiss, familiar, unguarded, and intimate. It was clear they had done this before. My stomach dropped as the undeniable truth sank in. The camera in the hallway caught them walking hand in hand toward the bedroom, their voices faint but affectionate. I watched as they disappeared behind the bedroom door, which shut with a soft, deliberate click. The sight left me reeling, my hands trembling as I paused the footage. The betrayal was excruciating. That night, after Stella had fallen asleep, I picked up her phone from the counter. My hands shook as I scrolled through it, but she always left it unlocked. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for, a string of messages from a contact named Andrew. The texts told a story I couldn't deny. Andrew was the bartender she'd met on the cruise, a connection that now made sense. Their exchanges were filled with flirtation and plans made while I was at work. Stella's excitement was palpable in her words. Each revelation felt like another blow. She hadn't been spending nights out with friends. She'd been with him. Photos of their time together on the cruise surfaced in their chat, as well as messages filled with inside jokes and affectionate exchanges. Every word I read dismantled the life I thought we had built, but one message stood out. Andrew planned to visit again in 2 days. They had set a time, noon, while I would be at work. The pain was unbearable, but as I stared at her phone, anger took its place. Stella had made her choice, and I couldn't ignore it. Revenge began to form in my mind, an icy resolve that overtook the pain. If she thought she could deceive me, she was about to learn otherwise. He entered my home once more just as he had before, and I wasn't there to stop him. That's when the idea struck me. The following morning, I contacted Stella's parents. I told them I had planned a special surprise for her and wanted to fly them in to be part of it. They were thrilled by the suggestion of visiting their daughter, completely unaware of my true intentions. My aim was for them to witness the truth, to see Stella's betrayal with their own eyes. I wanted them to catch her and Andrew together, in my house, in our bed. When the day arrived, I told Stella I would be working late, though I had taken the day off to set my plan in motion. As soon as I left, I headed straight to the airport to await her parents' arrival. After picking them up, I checked the cameras installed in the house. As I had expected, Andrew was already there, entering with a casual ease that suggested he felt at home. He had arrived earlier than I anticipated. My pulse quickened as I brought Stella's parents back to the house. Every passing moment made my chest tighten. The moment of truth was near. When we stepped inside, faint sounds drifted from the bedroom, muffled voices, the rustling of sheets, and unmistakable moans. I motioned for her parents to remain quiet, and together we moved down the hallway in silence. With a single motion, I flung open the bedroom door. There they were, Stella and Andrew, tangled together in bed, completely exposed. The room plunged into silence, the weight of the discovery suffocating everyone. Stella's parents froze in place, their expressions blank with shock. Neither moved nor spoke. Their disbelief rendered them motionless. Fury coursed through me. "What the hell is going on here?" I yelled. Stella's face twisted with horror as her eyes met mine. She scrambled to cover herself, but the damage was already done. Andrew, caught entirely off guard, snatched up his clothes and fled without saying a word. Stella's parents stood rooted in place, their faces a painful mix of anger, heartbreak, and devastation. Finally, her father broke the silence, his voice trembling with disbelief. "How could you? Here? In his house? With another man?" Her mother's voice rose, sharp and quivering. "You've destroyed everything. Everything we taught you. Everything we believed in." She fixed Stella with a tear-filled gaze. "You've broken this family." Stella, overwhelmed by the weight of her actions, began to sob. Her words faltered as she tried to speak, dissolving into incoherent gasps. "I'm sorry," she managed to whisper, her voice frail and desperate. But her apologies were hollow, powerless against the reality of what she had done. My anger surged. "This is what you've been doing behind my back? Lying to me? Sleeping with him in our home?" My voice cracked under the strain of my rage. I trusted you and you made a fool of me." Her father shook his head slowly, his expression hardened with disappointment. "You're not the daughter we raised," he said bitterly. His voice carried a heavy sorrow that cut deeper than anger. Her mother stepped forward, her tone cold and unforgiving. "We don't want to see you again, Stella. Not after this. You've destroyed everything. We taught you better than this." Stella's legs buckled beneath her, and she collapsed onto the floor, her sobs turning frantic. But no apology, no plea, could undo the damage she had caused. Her mother's next words were ice-cold and final. "You've hurt us in ways we can't forgive. Don't reach out to us again." Her parents turned away, their grief and fury etched deeply into their faces. Her father didn't glance back, muttering under his breath, "I can't believe what you've become. Goodbye." Once they were gone, I steadied myself and spoke, my tone firm and unyielding. "It's over, Stella. I'm filing for divorce. You've destroyed everything we built. There's no coming back from this." Her tear-streaked face crumpled as she reached out to me. "Please, I'm sorry. I'll fix it. I promise," she cried, her voice cracking with desperation. But I shook my head, unmoved. "You should have thought of that before you betrayed me," I said. Without another word, I turned and walked away, her sobs echoing in the background. Later that evening, I dropped her parents off at a nearby hotel. They would be flying home the next day. Our goodbyes were brief, weighed down by unspoken pain. Afterward, I returned to the house and told Stella to leave. She didn't argue, packing a bag and heading to her friend Mandy's place. The following day, I filed for divorce. The legal process was straightforward, but the emotional toll was immense. Stella didn't contest the papers. She knew as well as I did that there was no salvaging what we once had. Her betrayal had created an irreparable chasm between us. It was over. It was time to move forward. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.